It is 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and start reading this manifesto. Gary, you here?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, we're going to start. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, the Fairfax County Athletic Council needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask in your advance for your patience. First, because each member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for all the other members. Accordingly, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location of which you're participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Jason?
Good evening, everybody. Braddock District, Marcia Pape Daniels.
This is Marcia Pape. I'm participating from my office in the Braddock District.
Thanks, Marcia. Braddock alternate, Marco Mira.
I'm here at University Mall Theaters. Welcome. Hello.
Thank you, Mark. Drainsville District, Greg Beckwith.
This is Greg Beckwith, and I'm conducting this from my home in Great Falls, Virginia, within the Drainsville District.
Thanks, Greg. Drainsville alternate, Brian Lewis. Hunter Mill District, Jeremy Lee. Hunter Mill alternate, Harold Leff.
I'm here. I'm coming from Herndon in the Hunter Mill District.
Thanks, Harold. Franconia District, Lisa Mickey. Or Franconia alternate, Bill Bright. Mason District, Barbara Lowry.
This is Barbara Lowry. I'm at my home in Mason District.
Thanks, Barbara. Mount Vernon District, Lester Munson. Or Mount Vernon alternate, Bob Kirk.
I'm here. I'm calling in from Surf City, North Carolina.
Thank you, sir. Providence alternate, Kelly Ego Asawala. Springfield District, Mike Thompson.
Yeah, this is Mike Thompson. I'm calling from Santa Barbara, California.
Thanks, Mike. Springfield District, Mark Hilburn. Sully District, Gary Flather.
This is Gary from my home in Sully District.
Thanks, Gary. Sully alternate, Mark Abbott. Diversity at large, Mark Fernandez. Or alternate, Eric Sohn.
Yeah, Eric here from Chantilly, my office.
Thanks, Eric. Member at large, Catherine Quinn.
Hi, it's Catherine. I'm calling in from my home office in Reston, Virginia.
Thanks, Catherine. Member at large alternate, Anne-Marie Swope. Town of Clifton, Jeff Stein. Town of Herndon, Roland Taylor. Town of Vienna, Tom Hansen. Baseball Council, Rob Honey. Basketball Council, Steve Bergstrom.
Steve Bergstrom calling in from my home.
Thanks, Steve. Basketball alternate, Stu Clark. Fast pitch softball, Susie Williamson.
Susie Williamson at her home in Fairfax Station.
Thanks, Susie. Fast pitch alternate, Ryan Buchanan. Football Council, Mark Miena. Or alternate, Ted Hollingsworth.
Ted Hollingsworth, calling in from Oakton, Virginia.
Thanks, Ted. Lacrosse Council, Marianne Wagner. Or alternate, Dave Paddock. Slow pitch softball, Christine Iddip. Soccer Council, Lula Bauer.
Here in my home in Alexandria, Virginia.
Thanks, Lula. Soccer alternate, Trish Moxie.
Here in my home in Springfield, Virginia.
Thanks, Trish. Volleyball Council, Rob Bailey.
Here from Annandale, Virginia. And Jason, Anne-Marie is probably going to be late, just so you know.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for the heads up. Women's sports programs, Jenny Cantwell. Or alternate Hillary Richardson? It looks like I see Hillary's on. Are you there, Hillary? I guess we can come back to that one. Let's see. Fairfax County Park Authority, Mike Thompson's still here. Dan Sutherland.
He said he might be a few minutes late.
Got it. All right, no worries. Fairfax County School Board, Dr. Ricardi Anderson. I believe she had a conflict tonight. Bill Curran.
This is Bill Curran calling from a parking lot somewhere in Fairfax County.
Thanks, Bill.
Been a long day and it's cold.
FCPS Community Use, Vicki Garner.
Yeah, I'm here from my home in Burke, Virginia.
And Paul Hatcher. And NCS Lloyd Tucker. Keisha Dodson.
Here from Centerville.
Karen Navisato.
I'm here from my home in Leesburg. Sorry, my voice.
And Mark Martino.
And I'm here from home.
Awesome. Did I miss anybody or anybody sign on? All right, I think we're good, Lula.
Very good. Thank you so much, Jason.
I'm on.
We good?
Oh, I saw Kelly just signed on. Gotcha. Thanks, Kelly.
All right, we're good. Thank you, Jason. So at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to the Vice Chair, Gary Flather, so I may be heard to make the requisite motions. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the Fairfax County Athletic Council.
Is there a second?
I second.
This is Marcia.
Eric Sohn, second. Any objections? Motion is approved.
Very good, thank you. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for the Fairfax County Athletic Council to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of the Fairfax County Athletic Council and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the Fairfax County Athletic Council may conduct this meeting electronically via Microsoft Teams, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 571-429-5982. Phone conference ID number is 201-025-297#. Is it so moved?
So moved.
I second it. This is Barbara.
Barbara seconds. Any objections? Motion's approved.
Perfect. Finally, it is next required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the emergency itself, are necessary for continuity of Fairfax County government and or statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the Fairfax County Athletic Council lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. Is it so moved?
So moved.
Second. Eric seconds.
Yeah, Eric
Any
second.
objections? Motion's approved.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there any citizens that would like to address the council? Are there any presentations for the council?
I'm not aware of any, Lula.
All right, thank you. Approval of the October 13th, or I'm sorry, October 19th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. This is Gary.
Yeah, this is Eric. I second.
Any objections? So moved. Okay, we are going to now address the FOIA virtual remote participation policy. But before we do, I just want to lay out what we are planning on doing moving forward. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to vote whether or not we're going to adopt the virtual promotion participation policy. Jason, could you just bring that slide number 6 up so we can just quickly review it? So this is the remote participation policy that we will be voting, slide number 6, that we'll be voting to adopt. So just to review it really quickly, the remote participation allows electronic participation by a member when a quorum of the public body is physically assembled under certain circumstances. We sent out a survey with these 3 criteria. A member's disability or other medical condition prevents their physical attendance. There's no limited number of meetings that you may remotely attend. A member's family has a medical condition that requires a member's care. There's no limit. A athletic council member's principal residence is over 60 miles. Also, personal matters, you're limited to 2 meetings and they cannot be back to back. So this is the remote participation policy that we're looking to move forward to adopt or not. I'd like a motion.
Lula, just real quick, I would just note that the personal matter, that's per year. That's two per year, not 2 over the lifetime on your on the council.
Correct. Thank you. And they cannot be back to back.
And so I don't remember if you were looking for, I think on the personal matter it can be, but I might be wrong. I would move or second that we should move towards adopting this policy in general. These aren't the exact words, but I would, whatever you were looking for,
I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. Any discussion? There's no discussion?
I have a couple questions and I apologize. So there'll be individuals such as myself during our spring sports season that we will have conflicts. So I can very well see missing 2 of the meetings. So is it then okay to have the alternate, or is it per council or is it per individual? Because honestly, and some of us, that's when we work. Like I'm able to do things remotely. That's very challenging if that is the stipulation, and I would not be able to continue. And I'm just being straight up honest.
You know what? Great question, Susie. And I got to say that I've coached high school for many, many, many years. And I totally understand. And I think this policy is going to be very, very helpful. This is the athletic council. We have so many coaches. So with this policy, it allows 2 virtual meetings for the entire council per year, per calendar year. It also allows 2 personal it allows personal exemptions or missing meetings, but not back to back. So I know that typically the sports calendars run 2.5 months in terms of their program. So I am very sensitive. I am very sensitive to that. I think it's been great during during COVID and during the time we're meeting virtually that our coaches that are serving, and we all know there's a shortage of coaches that are serving our schools. If this is scheduled correctly, you'll be golden. You'll be able to still participate on the council as well as providing a service to the school as a coach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like I said, I'm not complaining. I'm just putting out some reality for some potential things on down the road. So, I mean, if that's what gets adopted, that's the rules. I get it. Again, not complaining or anything, but I'm just.
Susie, I would point out that before the pandemic, it was only it was only in person, and if you couldn't attend, of course, the alternate could attend and vote and participate. I mean, it was so there's a primary and an alternate. This doesn't change the ability for the primary and the alternate to participate. This is about individuals. So it's not like the softball council doesn't get 2 personal matters or whatever, you, Susie, get 2 personal matters. I would also say that this is the law that was passed by Virginia that makes it possible for us to have this new flexibility.
Yeah, like I said, not complaining at all. So,
And you know what,
I mean, it's
Susie?
all good. I'm just, it's all good. Again, I'm not trying to stir anything up, so.
No, you know what, Susie, and I didn't take it as complaining. I thought it was a great question because this is going to be very beneficial. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share this with all of our coaches. So it gives them a sense of relief or security, if that makes any sense, that you can continue to coach and then you can still call in virtually. If that makes sense. Gary, I think you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to echo Mike's comment, and Susie, I also did not take that as a complaint at all. I think it's a very valid question, but I think this does, as Mike said, it gives the opportunity. It also, for me, it enforces kind of a thing that needs to happen by any of the primary reps that are on the council, is to make sure that you have a contact with your alternate, that you know who they are, what their numbers are. And if you're going to be out because you're coaching a game and you can't make it, make sure your alternate is there to represent the sport or the district. I think I think this is a useful thing, and I think it's going to help, like Lula said, I think it's going to help a lot of us that coach that can't be at meetings. But I think it also is an opportunity to make sure everybody knows who their alternate is, what their cell number is, what their email is, and say, hey, I'm not going to be there this month. I need you to be there in case there's a vote so you can represent fast pitch softball or whatever. Make sense? My 2 cents.
Yeah, like I said, it's all good, all good.
And actually, you can still call in. I really enjoyed listening to the baseball games where Ron was coaching during the season, and visualizing somebody stealing third. Are there any questions, questions or discussion?
Yeah, did Mike actually make a motion?
Mike,
yes.
I think I made the motion and I thought Eric had seconded it.
Yes, we did. We're just having discussion now. If there's not any further discussion, we'll go ahead and go to vote. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of adopting the remote participation policy? Jason, do you want us to raise our hand, or do you want us? You want to roll call?
I think it'd be easier, Jason, if you ask how many are opposed.
Yeah, that's probably okay. All right, anybody opposed?
Everybody needs to put their hand down first.
Anybody opposed? The vote is unanimous. We will be adopting the remote participation policy. Yay. Thank you very much. So with that said, we're just going to conduct one more bit of business, and that is in terms of amending our bylaws. Jason, could you pull up Article 6 meetings? We're not going to have a vote on this because our bylaws say that that once an amendment is presented, it's voted on a month later at the next meeting. So basically, the bylaw amendment will be added to Article 6 under meetings. We have 4 different sections. If you wouldn't mind scrolling up, only because my bar is hiding it. So the bylaw amendment will be adding it to Article 6, and we will be adding it under, we'll be adding Section 4. And in Section 4 will
I think you mean Section 5, Lula.
Section 5, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm looking at quorum. Under Section 4 and Section 5. So that is something for you to be aware of, and that vote will take place at the next meeting. based on.
Well, and
our-
Lula,
Excuse-
I think the amendment, I don't know if you have language, I think the amendment goes beyond what was just in that slide. That slide was specific to individual participation, but I believe that at least I thought the motion that I mentioned included the ability for the council to conduct up to all virtual meetings over the course of the year, not in consecutive order, also in line with the new law passed by Virginia.
Yes.
So it would be the individual, it would be those 4 categories for remote participation in a meeting, as well as the opportunity for the council to conduct 2 meetings virtually over the course of, or 25%, but we're 2, virtually, as well as the other stuff.
Exactly. And you're right. It was not on slide 6. I'm not sure what slide that is on. However, that is the amendment that will be entered into our bylaws. But you are correct. As soon as we get that wording together, I'll send it out tomorrow so everybody can take a look at it, because it's not on that slide. But you're absolutely right. It's 2 virtual meetings per year, and then the different criteria, and then the individual meetings.
So, Lula, I have a question. Sorry, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say, just in case, depending on how somebody wants to interpret our bylaws, I will introduce at this meeting as section 5, the language presented on that slide, as well as 5th bullet point, that the council may conduct up to 2 virtual meetings per year, not in consecutive order. That
Correct.
way we can modify that if we get feedback from the county attorney or want to or need to amend it in some way, we're good. But I will officially introduce that at this meeting since we have to introduce it at this meeting to then vote on it at the next meeting.
30 days later. Yeah, that's correct. Gary, did you have?
No, that Mike touched on what I wanted to know. That's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. All right, moving right along.
But did we second Mike's motion of the 2 virtual meetings?
That was I was
done.
under the, when I made my first motion, and that Eric had seconded, that we had discussed the 2 meetings already. So I had included that in my original motion. If you want me to clear it up, I can clean it up if anybody feels I need to.
No, I just wanted to make sure that I heard you say that, but then because the slide didn't include it, I wasn't sure I heard it right. But I'm assuming we've done it all. It's been proposed and seconded and will to be considered in next month for adoption.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, moving right along.
Can we ask questions?
No, actually, that was for discussion. And it was passed. And this is the policy or the bylaw amendment we're going to make. And brought to your attention, we'll readdress it in 30 days.
Right, but the one Mike just brought up, usually you get a discussion point when someone brings up a new motion.
Well, first, Steve, I have no problem discussing it, just so everybody, to make it clear, just so everybody knows what just happened. We made a motion in a second that, frankly, I think is confusing, but the county attorney suggested that we do it, which is that we will adopt the policy. And then my motion in terms of the bylaw change is actually just putting, our bylaws require that the change be introduced now, and that it be voted on and has to receive a 2/3 majority at the next meeting. So I'm just introducing it now. I have no problem with discussion or whatever else. I just point out that we're not voting on, or it's not a formal motion. It's just the introduction of it to then be debated and discussed at the next meeting as well.
Correct.
Yeah, I just have
But
a
I'm all for
question.
open discussion.
Okay. So my question is you said, did you say not to exceed 2 in a row or not to have any? You
No.
can't have 2 in a row.
We can't. Virginia law does not allow us to have 2 virtual meetings in a row. We can have up to 2 virtual meetings, which are not consecutive.
Oh, okay. So my only observation is it snows in January and it snows in February. So you could run into the case that you might have to cancel your February meeting because there's no option to do a second meeting. But okay. Got it.
And that has happened before.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it has. But I would also just point out that prior to the pandemic, we had none of this flexibility at all. We couldn't even do a virtual meeting.
Oh, I know. I'm like just questioning the logic of, if you're going to address the issue, you might as well address the winter part of it. But okay.
Moving right along to committee reports. Communication with Fairfax County partners. Gary, Chairman.
Yeah, I'll make this somewhat brief. I did request from NCS to be provided the list of cancellations that have occurred this fall. And I did get the list. I'll ask Karen and Mark if they can provide it to Jason to share with everybody. Trying to see where my list went. Hang on one second. Basically, what it showed is we have 1,678 cancellations across the county for this fall season. Keep in mind that of those 1,600 plus cancellations, all 1,600 plus cancellations occurred after permits were issued. Only about 8% of those are emergency or weather related. So, I want to reach out. Dr. Anderson's not on and Vicky is on, but I think that perhaps at the next meeting, we can decipher this a little bit more and I can do some analysis. Maybe Vicky, your staff can do some analysis on it as well as NCS. I love playing with numbers. I'll do my own, but certainly we need to talk about it. The idea that there's, we're making improvements and making strides. We've all agreed that there has been some good efforts put in so far, but quite honestly, 1,678 cancellations of the type of dance team, Cub Scouts, color guard, back to school nights, PTA events, school board meetings, things of this nature that are all known well in advance. I think we still have a long ways to go. I think that's my point. So I would just, like I said, minimize today's meeting on this subject. Just to say that I still think we have a long ways to grow. I think 1,600 cancellations after permits are issued is not good by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said, we all know about weather. We all know about emergencies. We all know about games being rescheduled. Bill has talked at length about that. We all understand that and know about it. So I think what would be best is if we share this data and then maybe get a report. Vicky, if you're willing, and then NCS together, maybe you guys can put a report together, excuse me, that kind of summarizes the data. We're heading into the winter season. Basketball is always tough in the winter with cancellations. We're already getting them. So I see, did I see somebody had their hand up? I think Marcia.
Marcia has her hand up.
I look forward to seeing the data and looking at a report on it, and this is just a yes or no question, did you see any obvious trends as far as a particular location, or was this across the board?
The number, it's a good question, Marcia, and actually, I'm assuming, Mark, that we do have that additional data of where the cancellations are at. The data that I got was just pure numbers of what type of cancellation, what was the reason for the cancellation, not where they were located. This was the data across the entire county.
We definitely
Okay.
have the data that with per location. It should have been on that report, but we have that
It might have
information.
been washed out. I just didn't see it, but it's probably, I'm sure you guys have it.
Yeah, it's definitely, the report includes the actual location, because it does, I'm almost positive.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think.
well, that'll be interesting to see.
Thank you, Marcia. Mike, you have your hand up?
Yeah, when we're looking at the data, Gary, I don't know if this is in the data, or Karen, I don't know if you can classify the data this way, but what Gary said, can we classify it as the official school stuff? Like color guard is an official school activity. That's, the color guard team. I mean, that's an official thing. Then you have the community stuff, Boy Scouts, etc. Those are community activities. And then you have these quasi school things that are technically still community activities, like the PTA stuff. I think it would be important to understand, it's one thing to deal with the schools. It's another if for some reason a different community group is not having to go through the permit process and is getting permitted space. So I think breaking it up to categories would be really helpful to this analysis as well.
We definitely have them in categories, Mike, and everyone else, and we'll work with Vicky and Paul to put together something for you guys for the December meeting. They're absolutely in categories. We've got it down to that point. So yeah, I agree that that's important information.
Yeah, and the data, I apologize. I was looking at the summary sheet. I was not looking at the actual data. It does have the school location, the area, the group that's affected. All that data is there, Marcia. So once we kind of get a handle on categorizing it, the summary report did have some of what you're asking for, Mike, but we can, we'll wait and see what, NCS and community use comes up with, but I think that would be useful to see. The unfortunate part is I don't think we have historical data going back years on numbers of cancellations, but that would, the bottom line is this, that the schools have responsibility to enter known events into the system before permits are issued. And to me, this is just proof that they're still not doing it.
The raw data is concerning, but I think that drilling down a little bit more is going to be very helpful in trying to figure out exactly what's going on and where the problems are in order to resolve it. So thank you for working on this.
Yep, absolutely. That's all I got.
Well,
Lula, unless anybody else has any questions.
Well, I'm sort of biting my tongue, but I will just say this. For those of us that are very involved with the club and we're getting these cancellations, it is more than frustrating. And, I sound like a broken record, but to get something on November 16th to let you know that a gym is canceled for November 17th is outrageous, especially when it's a school function that has been on the calendar forever. I'm just saying it is incredibly, incredibly frustrating. So I'm with you, Marcia, really looking forward to getting down further into the weeds and finding a solution for this. And thank you, Gary, for your hard work on this. It's been years, but as far as me being the chairwoman of this council, you started at the very beginning of my tenure, and that was June 2021. So I'm looking forward to finding resolution because it is just a hardship on these clubs to get these type of cancellations the day before or a week before. So thank you for that. Next is APRT. Is that Susie or Karen?
Yeah, the only thing that we have to report is we're finalizing the final report, getting ready to send it out for one last edit before we send it to Chris Leonard for approval. And it's still on the books, as I think I know, to go before the board in December. We're just not sure if it's going to be a presentation or if it's going to be just a report to the board. So we will, I guess, if that is the case, we will report, we will present it to the Athletic Council in December as well.
Wow, that's amazing. December's next month. Good job. How exciting is that? Wow. So definitely December.
That's what we're shooting for. Now, if the board pushes that back, or if Chris pushes that back after he reviews it, then we'll let you know. But I think it would be appropriate for us, the APRT, to put together a presentation to go before the Athletic Council in December anyway, for Lula, you and Susie and Rob to share with the council the work that we've done so far.
Yes, it's been amazing and a lot of work into it. I'm just so proud and overwhelmed that it's December, which is next month. That's awesome. Champions of Character.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. We are still planning on October of next year. There's a lot of just kind of steps we have to go through to make sure we secure the date with the right across the hall at the government center. So we're doing that. We're working with those people over there. They have to check with Board of Supervisors and dates and meetings and stuff like that. So we want to make sure we have a really solid date. But October of 23 will be the Champions of Character. So please make sure you're getting nominations, you're getting those things out. Everything is up on the board, so we'll make sure that the Stephen McLaughlin Champions of Character awards is full go in October, and hopefully have a date ASAP.
Very good, thank you. Sports Scholarship Program.
So the Sports Scholarship Program, we're going to have to, I got to get through the APRT first before we start digging into that. So we're probably looking at, after the first of the year to really get our committee together and start digging into that one.
Okay, very good, thank you. Reports by sports representatives. Jason?
Yeah, who's the first one? School board, Bill? Oh, sports, my bad. Yeah, sorry. Baseball, nobody here. Basketball council, Steve?
Double muted there. Basketball council met. One of the big projects we're working on this year is to get a report out on basketball in general, kind of an annual report. The impetus for this effort, and would like to thank the NCS for giving us the data, and in particular Mark, Jason, to check. We've noticed a big decline in girls basketball. We've been talking about it for during COVID. We were hoping that in COVID it would come back. First word we got about 60 days ago, where there were teams in Prince William County that couldn't field girls basketball teams at the high school level. Just found out yesterday that Lake Braddock Secondary School freshman team might be in the same boat. They may not have a freshman team. So we got these numbers. We're going to start looking at them that we got based on permits, and try to determine what the cause is, and talk to some of the clubs. Just so we know, they might be going over to another sport we don't know, but it is significant. Just to highlight it, I would say for the under 10 group, we've got in 2019, we've got roughly 1,600 girls in that, and the data now in 2022 fiscal year is 245. But even in 2020, it was down in 800s. So something's going on, and we're going to try to, for the sake of the sport and interest, is see if we're wondering if we're actually stressing competition too much at the youth levels, and kind of help the clubs, because I think that's really what the members of our council are, the clubs. So that's what we're looking at.
Thanks, Steve. Fast pitch softball, Susie.
The fall went pretty well for the organizations. A couple things that are exciting. Well, one will be Rob and I and other members that are on this call will be meeting with some individuals on Friday, talking about Patriot Park and things with helping to make that part of solutions for fields with softball and baseball. So just really excited for that discussion with that new facility. USA Softball has reached out and we'll be having 2 events in the spring. They were taking place in Loudoun, but they got bumped out. So they reached out to us, and so very excited that we'll have 2 more tournaments in addition to the other ones that have been here that will be running in the spring. So that's a nice thing for Fairfax County. Also, I just need to give a huge shout out to Karen. Her work on the APRT report has been phenomenal. She's a huge driving force behind this. So anything that comes out of it really has to be credited to her. So she's been a bulldog, and again, softball community can't thank you enough for all your tireless efforts and making sure things get put out there and discussed for the softball community. So thank you. And also a shout out to Karen's daughter, Kaylee, for committing to Northwestern. That happened just a week or so ago. So I'm going to give a shout out to that. She's a phenomenal player. So she's at a great school, and we're super excited for her next journey as she's a 2024. So, but she'll be heading to Northwestern. So, so a lot of good things happen in the softball world. So, thank you everybody for your support.
Thank you. Good job, Karen.
Thanks, Susie. Football Council, Ted.
Well, we just concluded our season last week, formal part of our season with our championship games last Saturday. Overall, our participation was up 14% over last year. There still be some use for bowl games and such on some fields, but we're now done till next summer.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ted. I don't think anyone's on for lacrosse or slow, but Soccer Council, Lulu and Trish.
Yes, I tell you, just some crazy, stupid vandalism going on. It's crazy, and it's happening in a lot of clubs. A lot of our members, Soccer Council members, are sending us pictures, but this is the kind of vandalism. Purchasing new nets, and then somebody comes along and just slices them. I mean, slices them right down or across. It's crazy. Or for the portable ones, bending them and breaking them. It's really crazy. And the walk-ons are just gotten way out of control. It's back to the food trucks and that type, the drinking, the beer bottles, that type of thing. But I also know that just recently an adult group got their permits pulled by Fairfax County, but they were at Hutchinson Elementary School with the food trucks and this, that, and the other. So it's gotten just, and I'm sorry for using this word, but just stupid, crazy with the ridiculous vandalism that's that's happening. And most of it's happening on the school grounds, which is quite interesting. So Trisha's on. We're going to send a Google form to our members to ask them to write in to what extent, if any, of the vandalism they're experiencing. But we had a huge trail going on, and people were sending in pictures of the crazy vandalism of just cutting nets or tearing your nets down. It's ridiculous. With the kids can't use them on that weekend. I do have another question. Soccer has another question, but when NCS gives their report, I'll ask them, and it's about permitted time for the winter. But I will ask that then. But other than that, everybody's buying new equipment because of the vandalism. That's all I have.
Trish, did you have anything or?
Just that it was a great season other than the vandalism and replacing locks that were cut off and destroyed. Our little rec kids are looking forward to the Herndon All-Star Tournament this coming weekend. And that's it. Thanks, Lula.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Volleyball, Robin and Marie.
Hey there. So Virginia High School is getting wrapped up. Alexandria City is playing, I believe, in the championship coming up here. So that's great. Another Fairfax County Athletic School. The rec leagues, boys rec leagues are over. Those were fun. Everybody had a great time. We have lots of kids asking about other opportunities for winter, what else they can do besides club. The other club, the rest of the club season's gotten started. Tryouts are going on now for girls after high school season's over, so that'll be ramping up. And then we finish up the boys' high school season. We had 35 teams this year. And again, a lot of the boys, they're looking to figure out what else they can do besides club. They're working on getting interest clubs in place in their schools so we can try and move things to the next level. And we're working with Bill Kern to kind of figure out if we can get a timeline for getting things going next fall. That's it.
That was it, Lula.
That's it. Very good. Thank you. Matters of interest from governing bodies. School board?
Good evening. We're wrapping up the fall season. Was a big weekend, even with the weather on Friday, was able to move forward. Fairfax High School won a field hockey state championship on Sunday. We had a special waiver to play on Sunday because of the weather on Friday. Field hockey and the travel that was involved wasn't conducive to play. Given that was actually state tournament finals. We did play football Friday night, did work out fine. There was concerns on weather, but as we've discussed in this group many times, if it's a sport you can play in the rain, you play it in the rain. And I can tell you I had lots of emails from parents saying, don't play this game, you shouldn't play it. And there was really the weather was not to a severe level, nor was it predicted to be, that was going to cause us to stop that. So we kept our games on for Friday. If there was a need to move them, we would have moved them to Saturday. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that. The weather cleared, things were nice. We also had cross country this weekend. Woodson boys, West Springfield girls won state cross country titles as well. So it was pretty big. Let me make sure I didn't reverse that because, West Springfield girls and Woodson boys won their state tournaments, which was a big deal. And we have geared up. We're in week 2 of the winter season. So just wrapping up tryouts, getting started with scrimmages and organization and things settling into what looks like a winter season. For awareness, the Virginia High School League has approved girls wrestling as an emerging sport. We have a percentage of our teams have females on them. Wrestling is a co-ed sport by nature, but separating that out, so there would be a girls only state tournament structure similar to what we have with girls golf. Golf in high school is a co-ed sport, but we have a girls only team as well that can compete through a state championship to try to build it as an emerging sport. Same is going on with wrestling, and that was just recognized for this winter, so it's just starting. We have a decent number of participation, and where they've done this, you've seen significant growth across the country where they've actually acknowledged and then opened it up as a full on sport. Yet to be determined how we'll approach it, but we do have interest level there and a pretty strong interest level. So right now we wrestle in combined teams, and with support for those individual state tournaments. I know there are a couple things lower on the agenda for new business, so I thought maybe I'd jump into those and address them since I think they really are and do come in. And hopefully that's okay, Lula, that we do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Kind of address that and buzz through those. So there's the middle school sports piece. I was, I hope you can understand, I was not here last month. I was babysitting my grandson, and that was a full attention thing. So was not able to make the meeting, but I know had Vicky was here and handled it. But to answer this specific question, so middle school sports at the middle school level, right now we have worked very closely for about a year with our middle school after school specialists to develop athletic competitive programming that falls within the middle school after school program. So it doesn't need additional resources, additional funding, but it does provide both intramural or interscholastic competition that is inclusive, which is kind of the mission that we've been given thus far. It's kind of the first step towards the advent of middle school sports. I can tell you and kind of share this in with the overall budget conversation as well. It's going to be really, really tough for a couple of years to mirror what we have at the high school or in a full middle school sports program, because I'm concerned about getting through this year with what I'm being told on the budget, much less next year. But we did put this plan together with the specialists that starts introducing athletic opportunities specific through the program that does not add or require any additional resources. So it allows us to do it. It can be very, very inclusive in the early stages and almost play up towards a tournament that would take place between schools. So it's a different way to look at it. And our middle school principals have signed off on it. We're taking it through leadership to get their approval to move that forward for this winter. And so we're pretty excited that that's the first step. And it's a long process to start anything in Fairfax County, but this is the first step, and it's a good step towards it. So I'm happy to share that out, and we'll keep you posted as we get that formalized with our leadership and get it moving. We have several schools that want to participate, have started planning for those programmings as well. So that's the good part. Any questions on middle school sports as I pull up the agenda?
Yeah,
to make sure
lots of questions.
Go ahead.
So how's that going to affect permitting for gyms and fields for the youth clubs?
So it falls under the middle school after school program, and 95% of all activities will fall within the middle school after school timeframe.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, as it exists now, there'll be no impact on community use.
So it won't go past 5 o'clock.
Correct. 95%. There will be times we'll play a middle school versus a middle school and plan that out and schedule that out. But one of the hard things beyond budget is just how do we do this without impacting this group? How do we do this without significant impact? If we were going to mirror a VHSL or a full middle school program as we could offer similar to what we offer at the high schools, that would destroy the opportunity within this group. We would take so much gym time. So when I say, and I should have clarified this a little bit better, no additional resources, that includes gymnasium use beyond a game here and a game there, which would be pretty limited. We will not play full seasons on an interscholastic level because one of the missions we've been given by our leadership is it has to be inclusive. And so we're not going to run a basketball team and make cuts and then limit that to 10 kids on the team and then run it. We're going to run tournaments within the school in the intramural time after school through the program that will lead to, very similar to what we already do, but a slightly expanded competition between some of the middle schools in a tournament. So the impact will be negligible on community use.
What sports are you targeting?
Well, again, it's a non-traditional. We are looking at right now in the winter, basketball. I'm trying to remember. It's not futsal, but there's a non-traditional sport. It's not a VHSL sport that the specialists came up with that they said is hugely popular at the middle school and within the PE curriculum. In the spring, we're looking at track, which is a hugely inclusive and easy one to make work for us. Soccer, obviously, is also a huge one at the middle school level, and we'd see a tremendous participation. We already run those intramural tournaments now, And so within the school, we already run them. It's just formalizing it a little bit different with regards to tournament play.
Our observation in the basketball council is that other counties that have run middle school programs end up having smaller participation because they're you're going to go home from school and come back. I mean, and then they have to limit the number of teams that each elementary school can field because they can't get you're going to run a big volunteer program. If you're going to pay coaches, then you're only going to have X number of coaches that'll go out there and be part of your program. So I'm wondering how much a big scope or analysis you've done on this.
Well,
this is the
I
first
talked to
I've
my
heard it.
counterparts and all of across the state who have those middle school programs, and again, they mimic the Virginia High School League program, which we will not do. I think hopefully I've made that pretty clear. It's going to be inclusive to start with, which is what we already do. You can go into any one of our middle schools in the winter, and they're already running a basketball program that's an intramural program. We're going to formalize that under that same umbrella in the same vision. This is not, do not think this is anything to do or is anywhere similar to what you've seen in Prince William County or what you've seen in Arlington or other school divisions that have middle school sports. Because if we did that, I would be on this call telling you, be prepared next year to lose significant gym time, and you would all not like that. And that is not what I believe in. Also, it would be what you just described as a very exclusive programming. Our mission is to not be exclusive, is to be inclusive of all of our kids, which again, we already focus on right now. So I can have our middle school specialist come in next month if you want and do a full presentation for you on what they're planning and kind of share that piece with you so you're in good shape. But with all due respect, what you just described is not what where we are, nor is it what I think I've stated. And please understand, I lead the group in the state that we discuss these things. So as far as my analysis goes, I can assure you it's pretty deep.
Well, I mean, I would like the proof is in the pudding, right? That's the first I've heard of it. It's surprise. This is the athletic council, and I thought this would be aired well before this. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this
Yeah.
is not the first time we're hearing about this.
I'm sorry, I didn't, so
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah, this is not the first time that's why it's on the agenda once again. We discussed it at the last meeting and I think the meeting prior to. But Gary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. Steve, I would say that it has been introduced and discussed multiple times. And I would say that I applaud Bill Curran's effort to not mimic the high school. Because if they mimic the high school, it would impact you severely. And then Bill, just a sidebar question on some of Steve's comment. Who actually, how is the design for how these inclusive teams, because you might get 20, you might get 40, you might get 50 kids signed up for this after school program, but who's actually going to coach these or instruct these? Is it the after school specialist, or are you going to go out and get coaches?
The after school specialist will support that overall piece. In most cases, what they're working to do is offset the high school seasons. Basketball is a little bit more of a struggle to do that in, but in most cases offset anything that has the high school season. And we can actually, within Virginia High School League rules, bring in the high school coach. There is at the middle school after school program level funding to fund those coaches for that time frame. We're also not looking to do this for a 3-month period. It's a much shorter abbreviated season is what it would look like. So overall, and there are a couple of different proposals still on the table. One would be running an instructional camp at the school, that's free to the kids, is open to everybody. They come in, work through skill levels, things like that, ultimately build out teams from that, let them play at the intramural level of that within the after school program, building to a school championship that then builds out to a broken down regional championship between the 4 or 5 middle schools within each one of our 5 distinct regions.
All right, thanks. And then I had a follow-up question. I know somebody else has their hand up, but a follow-up question, Bill, because you mentioned track. I don't remember mentioning track before, but if these middle schoolers, none of the middle schoolers have tracks, so are they going to be participating at the high school tracks? and not sure how that's going to work.
The current vision would be, as far as like training or working out on the regular school day within the after school program, would be on the existing facilities that they have.
Okay.
And then ultimately, should we run a meet working with the high school using the Saturday morning high school time that's allocated for our high schools, again, not community use time, but time that's allocated to the high school, to run a track meet at the high school site itself.
Okay. Yeah, again, I applaud your efforts to not mimic the high schools, because that would devastate all of us on this. But I do think, Steve, I think what they're doing is a good idea as long as it's controlled and it stays within that 3 to 5 p.m. time limit.
That is our intent as it stands now.
Yep.
Mike, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. A couple things. One, Steve, just as point of reference, the middle school after school program is actually something that's been discussed, I don't know, for almost a decade off and on at different times in terms of funding issues and different things that have come up. But Bill, it sounds to me like this is a continuation of what's been done before, except now a coordination between the schools, potentially for a different type of competition. But really, it's just the middle school after school program. So first, is that a correct interpretation?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Second, and I'm going to voice this now, because while I appreciate Gary applauding you for the way you're approaching it, I am aware that you front-ended the conversation talking about the fact that one of the biggest barriers is budget, and that doing it from a budget standpoint right now doesn't make sense. But over the next couple of years, it may be something that you revisit. So I would just suggest that at an appropriate time, and I don't know what that appropriate time is, but far enough in advance to understand the impact, that we all work together to do I don't know, a study, an analysis, or whatever is appropriate to understand what the impact of a middle school sports program would be on permitted time, if the opportunity exists to create a budget, and if you all look towards moving it towards something that more parallels VHSL. I think we all end up in a better place if we start that conversation early rather than find out about it, like, for example, going into county budget season when you're trying to get it funded or something. Does that make sense?
Mike, and it's an outstanding point. As you know, I know this group talked about last month. Last time that was done was 30 years ago, I think, and isn't necessarily realistic. And by saying it's not realistic, it's harder, not easier. From what those findings were 30 years ago, it would be more of a challenge. So the reality is, I honestly, I don't foresee this, and through my tenure, I don't foresee this moving forward beyond what we're looking at within this pilot. As there's different levels of engagement across our 26 middle schools, there's different levels of engagement with our principals. So starting this as a pilot, as we're looking at it now, is pretty much where we stand, which is a pretty small step towards it. I would say within the next year, though, initiating that study, because there are lots of people in this room who were around when we did the study before. And I was a very new coach and young coach at the high school level. I was certainly not involved with this body at that time, but a lot of us won't be part of this group in 5 years. And you can read through that one, that likely I won't be either, as my time is less than 5. So we want to leave a legacy so that as that changes, we've got that study in hand that is good for a long time and carries forward from a legacy. Because my vision's my vision, and that's what I represent to our leadership, is that we have to be very cognizant of our partners, and we have to make sure we respect where they are. But the reality is, things will change and leadership will change from time to time, and we need to have hard facts that support that. And so, Mike, I 100% support that. I would say come spring, maybe we put a reminder on the calendar that we form a committee that does that look starting in the spring of where we stand and what the impacts of that would be.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Well, while we're here, do you want to go ahead and discuss high school shortage?
Sure,
High school
absolutely.
coach shortage?
So there is a national shortage of high school coaches across the board. Right now this winter, we're seeing one of our biggest struggles is frankly dive coaches, is finding qualified or dive coaches to come in and coach. But overall, you're seeing this shortage. We've met, and pre-COVID and even during COVID, we established a committee of coaches, a coach advisory committee among our coaches, and then we actually subdivided that into some different groups that were able to provide different feedback for us with regards to what it is that they, what they like, what they don't like, how can we address that. An easy piece is to say, hey, we just need to pay them more. I can tell you in every study, there is never going to be enough money to pay them enough that is going to say, yeah, I'm coming in for the money. And as you well know, as you rely deeply on volunteers, very few coaches are in it purely for the cash. They're doing it for other reasons, and really good reasons. So it is, how do we make that work environment the best possible environment we can make, is really where we focus on. And the number one commodity comes down to their time. We are seeing part of the systematic issue that is really a challenge is we have a teacher shortage. As you look to teachers, which is always a great place to start with coaches, when you can't hire teachers, it makes it even harder to hire coaches because you're pulling them in. So that is, again, it's not a Fairfax County thing. This is a national piece that is a struggle across the board. We are involved with our recruitment teams as we go to college fairs and do all the college, recruit people coming out to come in and come in as coaches as well. Our DSA association has a presence at all our mentoring sessions and our Great Beginning sessions, which come in with early teachers. We also have done some recruiting on our own, where we've gone out to the local schools and talked to them about athletes who are finishing up, who are interested in going in an education or otherwise remain in the area and coach outside of teaching, to continue that piece of it. So we've got recruitment pieces in place. We've also worked to streamline some of what they do, which is a hard part to handle, and that can be very much a challenge. I do hear feedback from my DSAs from time to time, from some of my DSAs from time to time, regarding some of our coaches' education requirements. They feel that we have a list of them. I can tell you, on the backside of that is a way to support our coaches in the long term as well as support our schools. So those are things we're not really going to fluctuate too much on. We've moved most of that to online portals and online training, so we respect as much of the personal time of our coaches as we can, so that we're not pulling them into meetings in person and things like that. So there's no question there's a challenge across the board. And again, we continue to work at the state level and at the national level to compare notes with all of our counterparts on how better we can pull in coaches, how we can recruit coaches, how we can train coaches, how we can support coaches for the long term. We did move to the 3DI Institute, Three Dimension Institute, for our coaches principles course. One of the big points under that coaches education system programming is that it provides coaches a platform to overcome some of the frustrations that you see as a coach. It gives them tools to handle the challenging parent, to handle the challenging administration, to handle some of the challenges that they may see, as opposed to just a fundamental course. It does go much deeper into a philosophical discussion of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and reminding, building out yourself every single day around that piece of it. So that piece has shown, again, through the work they've already done nationally, that there is a return on that. So we are pleased to have that piece as well of where we step. But there's always more to come, and there's always, it's going to be a problem that's going to be around for a while. I saw on that piece too, there's the funding part. I am happy to say, I do not believe there's any chance that our current superintendent would ever consider bringing back an athletic fee. As we've seen that, we've been through 2 iterations of that as an athletic council. That is not something that's within her vision as budgets get tighter and tighter. She is a huge supporter of athletics again, and at some point I would recommend that formally this body invites her to a meeting. She will be here She will be one who will absolutely be here. She was at state cross country on Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Or Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I know because she called me and just showed up. She didn't miss it. And that's out at Oatlands, out in Loudoun County. So she has that level of commitment towards athletics. She's still on a learning curve from coming from the West Coast, and an overview. I've given her a snapshot of what we do, but I would strongly recommend inviting her to a meeting, formally inviting her. And I'm happy to do that. I feel like I need the okay to do that from this group, and that, that should come as a more formal process for her. But she would be here at her first availability, and would be happy to address the group as well. I know that was probably a very political talk around answer, but that's what I got right now.
Well, thank you for that. And we'll definitely get her a formal invite for sure. Any other questions? Then we're going to move right along to Park Authority.
Good evening, all. Just have a couple updates. So Patriot Park North is coming along. It's inching towards the finish line, as it were. We did get lights up on the 250/70 fields, so that's operational, and I believe lights in the parking lot as well. The bathrooms, unfortunately, are taking a little bit longer and will not be ready till the opening of the entire site, which is still targeted for mid-December. But we're getting closer to the finish line, and we have some decent weather over the next few weeks. We should be looking pretty good to have it all finalized. So if you're in the area, it's a nice looking site, nice looking fields, and there's a lot of good amenities there as well. The final little piece there, as far as a project update, is I think last month we showed that Nike 4 was targeted for the end of October, and that definitely has been finalized, and so it is complete and available fully for permitting. This list will probably expand a little bit as we head into winter and we possibly target some additional improvements. So I expect in the next report that you will see additional projects being done there. And so that's it for projects. One thing I did want to mention to soccer, or to anybody that experiences vandalism with any of your things that you leave in the parks fields, at least, please report it to the individual area manager so they are aware of it and can be on the lookout for any sort of damage, and also make you aware of it in case they run across it before you all do. But the second thing is that I would like to encourage that, in case you're not doing it yet, that the police have an online police reporting website. So where it may not be worthy of a police coming out and trying to investigate, but they still like to document those things for online reporting. And it's the same thing we do with vandalism in the parks. And the reason I do that is they just want to develop the pattern. And if they start to get a problem and they actually catch somebody in the act, they can actually hold them accountable for possibly more than just what they caught them in the act for. So I would definitely like to encourage you all to do that as well, just to help yourselves out. Because that's unfortunate. And yes, I am, Lula, aware of some of the instances down there. William made us aware of it down in Area 3. So, but definitely want to help in any way we can.
Well, thank you so much for that. And we'll be meeting with the Soccer Council group, Trish and I, and we will make sure that we provide them with that recommendation. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, one thing I'd augment what Dan said. One of the things the Park Authority Board is looking at is where there are conversations going on with the Board of Supervisors about the potential of bringing back, I don't know what they would be called, but I'll call them the park police. But the opportunity for law that folks that would be dedicated to the parks to the park system. One thing I would say is that the more you report now to the police of what's going on, to Dan's point, establish those patterns. If that program comes into place, it would also inform some of those more dedicated folks who will be looking at parks of where they would go. So if that does come together, that would present an even greater opportunity to kind of help direct some of those resources. So I would strongly encourage folks, and not just the tearing up of the fences. I mean, if people are doing other kind of vandalism, and hurting things, to let folks know, because those patterns are critically important in the process. I also would be remiss if I didn't congratulate the entire team at the Park Authority. The Patriot Park Patriot North looks like it is going to come online ahead of schedule, which is it's always good news when we are ahead of schedule from what we originally thought we were going to be. So I think that is great news. And then also the report that Dan showed, we're trying to be as open as possible with the renovations and the things that are going to impact the athletic council. If there's additional information you need about those kinds of things, let us know. But I think that, just you saw that it was a couple years of projected work, and he continues to update that, but we're trying to give you guys as much heads up as possible for impacts. And typically those impacts, just as a reminder, impact summers and winters. We try not, especially for the outdoor fields, we try to impact spring and fall seasons as little as possible, for lack of a better way to put it.
Great, thank you.
I think Mark had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on Dan's point with vandalism, and bring Bill Curran in. If something happens at a school site, especially a high school site, there are cameras that are out there. Some see things, some don't. Some work, some don't. Bill, I'll let you kind of talk on that. But if something happens at a high school site, it'd be great to let people know that you may get lucky and be able to find something out. Bill, is that accurate?
That's correct. And our school security office can query some things too, just from a central standpoint. So letting us know if there's vandalism. Certainly if there's vandalism to your equipment at a school site, particularly a high school site. The middle schools and elementary schools are not as well covered on the external cameras, but the high schools are. But if there's something at a high school site that was yours that was vandalized, ours was likely vandalized as well. So we're looking, we'll be looking into the whole thing. So don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for Park Authority? Thank you for that report on NCS.
Well, I don't have a whole lot. I'm sorry about my voice.
You don't have a voice, that's for sure.
I know, I don't. I know. Just working on the APRT a lot, and I do want to say that as far as the cancellations and everything, Vicky continues to work with my staff on improving processes, and just recently they just worked on improving a process that'll help to be more efficient internally. And so we're in constant communication. We're not going to drop the issue, I promise you that. We're working together, and we're just going to keep at it. I don't know, Keisha, I'm like, my voice is gone, so I really don't have a whole lot more to say.
No, I don't have anything other to add. I was going to actually weigh in and say the same thing, that we continue to work with the schools, and we had already talked about a presentation to you all with the data, so we're happy to pull that together for next time.
And the only other thing I wanted to share with you guys was, just like we just have shortages in teachers and everything, but we also have shortages in police, and so, the walk-on issues might be heightened right now because we can't, it's hard for us to get the police to pick up the overtime that we're offering to pay them because they're just so understaffed. And so we're doing the best we can. Really going to rely on the groups to help us report stuff so we can send our limited amount of monitors to the hotspots. So that is happening. We have a shortage everywhere with staff.
The only thing I just want to add is just about the basketball season and the holidays coming up. Just know, and Vicky, I just want to make sure I'm saying this right, know that The schools are closed 23, 24, 25, which is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of Thanksgiving. It is open on the weekends, but one of the things that we were asked by community use was that if you're not using them that weekend, you may have the permit, but if you're not using them that weekend because it's Thanksgiving weekend and people are out, please let your scheduler know so they can remove you from the permit so the custodians don't think they're working. But the group just decided, well, we're not going to go that weekend. So please do that. I think that's really important. It's for the custodians to have their holiday if they need it. So know that the gyms are closed that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Please let your groups know if they're not using it that weekend to let us know. We can pull it and then we can let the schools know, and they don't have to be there over that weekend. So that's what's kind of coming up around the corner. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Mark, for bringing that up. We appreciate that. And we have been working very closely with NCS, our counterparts, fine tuning as anywhere we can. Just a brief note, I'm at the DSAs today. Obviously, NCS and our youth groups were part of the conversation. The give back plan was emphasized. And I do think that because we've gone to the 4 times, that was well received by the DSAs. They see it. They are very cognitively aware of their input and how important that is. I think we're going to see some great improvement as time goes on this year. That's my input. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Are there any questions for NCS? If not, we're going to move right along to old business. Does anybody have any old business they'd like to bring up? If not, does anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any objections? Thank you for that. So we have a second. So moved. Any objections?
Happy Thanksgiving.
So moved. Yes, thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. Good night.